I'm Alex James and welcome to What's Your Story. And this evening I'm joined by Bob, who usually is the other side of the camera and does all of the editing for What's Your Story. So I'm really pleased to have you with me this evening.
Nice to be here, thank you.
And our guests this evening are Robin and Christine, my good friends from South Wales.
Yes, Brecon in South Wales, yeah.
For me, with a sense of direction. and that's before we start talking about what we're going to be talking about. So this evening, because my knowledge of alcohol is very, I know you're laughing, limited. I know how to drink it, but I don't always know what I'm drinking. And Robin and Christine are both very, very good cooks. Should I be calling you chefs?
Well,
you're a chef.
I'm a chef, and
I'm a cook.
Robin's a cook. Yeah,
Robin is,
but he's a very good cook, to be fair. Yeah,
and Robin is a wine connoisseur. And when I visited them recently, we were talking about wine, and they had some beautiful wine. I kind of feel, Robin, that wine is wasted on me, good wine, because I don't know what I'm drinking. I like it or I don't. And I tend to think that there's a lot of people like me out there that they don't really know what they're drinking. I often feel hesitant about asking if I go to a restaurant, recommend a wine, because I think I'm going to get done for something like 100 quid a bottle, probably. And I don't trust anybody with it. And as most of it tastes the same, I'm trying to get Bob, get off your phone. Oh, he's writing down all the wines he wants to ask you about. That was why Bob came along. So I've got some wine here, but shall we let you introduce yourself a little bit, Robin, and you tell us a bit about what you used to do or what you do now, and about, well, basically introduce yourselves.
Okay. Well, I was in the wine trade when I left school. I joined an old-fashioned wine merchants down in Dorchester in Dorset, where when I joined back in 1980 or something or other, they were still writing invoices with quills and pots of ink. It really was oldie-fashioned, and every customer that came in would be a lord, a lady, or an earl. It was absolutely fantastic, and I caught the drug, if you like, for wine. And after 5 years or so being there, I went on and did other things. And then later on in life, I came back to it, and I had my own wine business for 15 years. And I lived in France, so I imported French wines into the UK, visited a lot of vineyards over there. But I've been to many places in the world, different wine producing areas. And I absolutely love the subject. I also like the real thing, but I enjoy talking about it nearly as much as I enjoy drinking it. Yeah. And I now have this wonderful lady in my life who's sitting to my left and your right on the screen, who also enjoys drinking it. And she'll tell you about her.
Christine,
you have to introduce yourself.
Okay.
You run a hotel. We should say that you run a hotel as well.
Yeah,
so
I do. I run a guest house in an old Georgian building, beautiful old Georgian house in Brecon, right in the heart of the town, in the heart of the Brecon Beacons National Park, and I love it. It's great, and it's also very nice to enjoy a little tipple with Robin.
We're going to get a little, hopefully. We haven't. I don't even know if I've got a bottle opener. I might have to go and find one. But the thing is, because I can ask you, it's like I don't want to feel stupid, so I tend to go with the crowd. And do you think a lot of people just do that? Like they don't want to admit that perhaps they don't know?
Yeah, what's one of the most intimidating things for people is to go into an old wine shop or a wine shop, call them an independent, and look around at things, not recognize a single label, and be very reluctant to ask for advice. Whereas if you go into a supermarket, you walk in, you'll recognize so many labels, you'll recognize so many names, and it's very, very easy. They've kind of dumbed down the whole wine buying process. Saying that, depending on the supermarkets, they have a really good selection of wines. But I do think that people are a little bit reluctant sometimes to ask for advice. Yeah.
Well, sometimes I've got a friend, I can't name him because I haven't asked him, but he'll know if he's watching this who he is. He sometimes says, oh, Aldi's red this week with this meal. And I think, how does he know that's good? Well, it must be what he particularly likes, because it's never terribly expensive. And is it a misconception that good wine should be really expensive, or can you get a good wine cheap?
I think there is a misconception that people think that, oh, it's a supermarket, so it must be cheap wines, or they don't know what they're doing. Whereas the supermarkets have a lot of money, and they employ wine connoisseurs at the top to choose their wines. So
yeah, they do. I mean, I used to do an awful lot of wine tastings, and the one thing I always started off with was, look, it doesn't matter how much you pay for a bottle of wine, as long as you enjoy the taste, because that's why you're drinking it. And whether you're drinking a £3.50 bottle of wine, which you could buy back in those days, or whether you're buying a £50 or £100 bottle of wine, as long as you're getting enjoyment from it, then that's what the person that made the wine wanted.
yeah.
But what used to annoy me slightly was when, let's say, slightly pretentious folk would go out and say, well, I've spent £30 on this, and they drink it and they didn't enjoy it, but they were doing it to impress whoever. Yeah, there's no point doing that. So to come back to your next point, and that was about the supermarkets, there is no reason to spend a lot of money on an enjoyable, drinkable wine, whether it's a supermarket or whether it's a wine merchant. You go into Aldi, they have great examples of many different genres of wine, whether it's Chateauneuf de Pape or whether it's Vin de Pays d'Oc from the south of France. They will all taste very, very good, be good examples of what they're meant to be. And it doesn't cost the earth. You can't really make an expensive mistake in Aldi. So I would say, yeah, it's a good place to buy your wines.
But Robin, when I go to, like, now, so say now that I know this about you, if I was up there to have supper, and you two are fabulous cooks, so if I was coming up there to have supper with you, I would probably feel quite intimidated and think I must spend about 20 to 30 pounds, which I don't know, is that expensive? I don't know. On a bottle of wine, for me that would be expensive, because I like to spend around a £5. I'll just go for a barefoot Merlot, because I know that it's like, well, you know, that's what I know. But wine, or I might bring my favourite, which is a Macon Village or something like that, or a Vouvray. Bob buys me that quite often.
Nice. Yes.
I really like that. I don't know how much it is a bottle. So, but to come up to you, I'd probably think, oh yeah, I've got to buy something, but I wouldn't know what the hell I was buying. So would I be advised then to say, what are you guys cooking, and what sort of wine do you think I should get? Or would you think, oh,
I think you're not the first person to say, oh my God, I didn't know what wine to buy you. And then it's normally followed up with, I didn't bring any. I brought chocolates, or I bought flowers, or whatever. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Because if somebody brings me a bottle of wine that's cost £5, then great. You know, it's about enjoying the wine, but enjoying it with friends. So, I mean, there's that old adage, isn't there? Life's too short to drink bad wine. And I agree with that, yeah. But an awful lot of it comes down to who you're drinking it with. And I seem to recall when you came to visit, we had a bottle of something or other. It wasn't particularly expensive. We sucked it down. We enjoyed it, but we were laughing.
We didn't have one bottle, Robin. I think we had 3 bottles.
I was saving your blushes. That's all, because you know,
I was working, so. But it was a very nice. What was that? Because it was a very nice white, and it was very drinkable, and I didn't have a hangover. That's the other thing, because I find with some wines, some Prosecco's even, I never get a hangover very much with champagne, but that's probably because I don't drink a lot of it. But Prosecco being cheap as chips cheerful, I probably do drink a bit more. But yeah, Prosecco gives me a hangover, and some wines give me a hangover. Is that because of the sugar content, or is it because they're cheaper, or what? What would that be?
Well, I think the wine we drank when you were up was Chablis, wasn't it?
I think it
I
was
think
a
we opened the
Chablis.
Chablis, yeah. So yeah, it was a very nice wine. I'll tell you something about a bottle of wine that. Okay, so you have the front label. And you have the back. Now on the back, it will give you maybe a description. It'll tell you alcohol, and it'll probably say it contains sulfites. That's it. But do you remember back in the 80s when people used to open their credit card wallet and it would just unfold and they'd have all these credit cards? Well, if you did the same about what additives are in wine, it would just come down and down, and the list would be all the way down here. Because you remember that everything that goes into the ground around a vine is sucked up by the vine, goes into the grape, and there are trace elements of things like nitrogen, copper sulfite, anything that goes in the ground or that originates. So if there happens to be tin deposits in the ground, that will be in the wine. You get so many things in there. Now, the cheaper the wine, the more additives, the more expensive the wine. You may find that it's biodynamic, so nothing artificial goes into the ground. You may find that it's organic, and again, nothing sort of too dodgy going in there. It's very much controlled, so less likelihood of getting a hangover. But it did happen to me once that I used to sell a Chilean wine, and every time I just had the smallest amount, it gave me a hangover or it gave me a headache. And I spoke to the growers, and they were right down at sea level, and their vines were close to the sea, close to the coast. And of course, the salt content, again, not declared, was very high in the wine because it was naturally taking it from the ground. And that's what was giving me a headache every time I tried it. So it can be many, many things that will give you a headache, but you can generally cure it by going biodynamic or organic, and you should be okay.
But the salt would be dehydrating you, presumably.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's having double the effect of the alcohol.
Is it true that some cheaper red wines have been fortified with nitrates, and the nitrates can give you really bad headaches because they're enlarging the blood vessels?
Yeah, there's lots of bits in there. They'll certainly have more sulfur in them, more sulfites. Yeah. And that will have an adverse effect on you. But there are so many different things that go in there. I mean, they're going to have nitrates in there because of the high level of nitrates that go into the ground. Because remember, cheaper wine, they want much more fruit. To get more fruit, you have to force the vine. You force the vine to give more fruit, bigger fruit. You try to get it to hold more liquid so that when it's pressed, it creates more liquid. Then, yeah, you're going to end up with more of that inside you. Yeah. Yes. Whereas with, again, slightly better quality wines, they tend not to go for volume, more for quality.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other question I have is screw top or cork?
Well, there's no difference on quality. And there are some tests running in Bordeaux in the top 5 estates: Mouton, Rothschild, Latour, Lafite, and so forth, and Margaux, and they are testing the longevity of Stelvin closures or screw caps versus the corks and seeing how they fare with age, because you would naturally assume that they might start to degrade or affect the wine, the metal might taint the wine and so forth, but probably not, because with a cork, you get two-way breathing. So as a result, if you have an old bottle of wine, when you take it out of your cellar, you stand it up, there'll be maybe so much missing out of the top where you've had this evaporation. But of course, you won't get that if you have a Stelvin closure, because there's nowhere for it to go. There's no breathability, whereas the cork will offer breathability. So it'll be interesting to see how the tests come on, how the wines age. My feeling is they probably won't age they'll age well, they'll last well, but they won't age in the same way as with a cork, because effectively it's almost like it's hermetically sealed. So it'll take long, they maybe will last longer before they get to their drinking plateau. But then you're talking about drinking platters, you're talking there about 500, 600, 700 pound bottles of wine. to most people, it makes no difference. After the first bottle, maybe you just want a screw cap because it's easier and you don't cut yourself with the corkscrew, when you take it to the foil and all the rest of it.
So a corked wine is where the it hasn't been laying on its side, so the cork has dried out and presumably it shrunk and let the air in.
Well, no, not necessarily. That can happen, but it can also be that the cork is has a taint.
Okay.
And the cork reacts with the wine, even though there's been no seepage, even though it's been stored properly on its side. But yes, it can happen if the wine's not stored properly. It can happen if the wine's exposed to direct heat over a sustained period of time. It will burn onto the inside of the bottle. So sometimes you'll get to the end, you look at the empty bottle and think, why is all that what I thought was sediment? Why is it all kind of burnt onto the inside of the bottle? That's possibly where, it's something as simple as a pallet of wine is offloaded from a container and it's sat outside maybe for a few hours in a hot sunny climate or a hot day, and it just burns on. It can be anything. Yeah, it really can. But it's only about 5% of wines are actually corked.
Sure. Can you actually tell the difference by taste between the different ways that the wine might be spoiled?
Well, you can certainly tell if it's spoiled. My gut feeling is a lot of people wouldn't know at the milder end. They just drink it. At the other end, it smells of sulfur dioxide, bad eggs, and in between, who knows? But you will be able to tell from the state of the cork if it was cork tank. Yeah, if it has leaks or seeped and the cork wasn't tight enough, then you'll have seepage coming out of the capsule. So that will be a telltale sign as well. Yeah.
Oh, I thought when it's corked, it's like when there's bits of cork in it.
No, that's just when you've got it slightly wrong with the screw cap. There is a little tip though. When you
my worst nightmare already. 5 minutes.
if you do get one that's slightly corked, and you can smell it. A little bit of cling film. Rip off some cling film. Put the wine in a jug. Put the cling film in the jug with the wine, and just leave it for 10-15 minutes. Take the cling film out. Pour the wine back into the bottle, and try it. It'll be different. It's almost like the cling film, the chemicals that make up the cling film, they counter the effect of mild corking. Yeah.
So basically, you're going to put the cling film into the jug, pour the
Into
wine.
the wine.
You pour the wine into the jug and then put the cling film in.
Yeah.
Just
leave
like
it.
like a bunch of cling film, or
No, just
or
just like a little bit like that.
and you dip it into
and put it in
wine.
there and just leave it in there for 15 minutes or so. Yeah.
I'll be doing that anyway, just to impress people. And now I want to ask you another question, which is about decanting.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you do that? Why do you want to do that? And also, when you buy, and does that go with that, when you go into an Italian restaurant and you buy a half carafe, they've already put it into the carafe? That's my second question. Have they decanted it, or is that just everybody else's leftovers that they're now?
You'd have to ask the restaurant owner on that.
Do you suspect they do that like I do? Because I wouldn't buy a half carafe in a thing, because I just think, they've just done that and put it all together.
Mix it up. No one will know.
Christine's the best one on that, having been in that industry.
I would say no. I don't think I've ever worked anywhere where they do that, where they mix it all up at the end. It would generally, if there's anything like that,
house though, might you?
it would go to, it might go somewhere else, or it might go to the kitchen for the chef to use. It might be, the bits that are left might get used for cooking. So if they're making a beef bourguignon, maybe it's not with would it be a burgundy that they would use for but it might be that it is just a bit of this and a bit of that, and and in the hopes that once it's all cooked, nobody notices. You've saved yourself a bottle of wine.
Presumably the purpose of decanting is to oxygenate the wine.
It is. Let me introduce you to a little tool.
Yes.
So this, at first sight, looks like a decanter.
A urinal. Oh, decanter.
But
It looks like one of those
things,
No, it
doesn't
doesn't.
it?
A sample bottle.
Yeah.
But with this comes a very useful attachment that you see, this end here is made of rubber.
A bit closer to the
Oh,
camera,
sorry.
maybe.
A little bit closer, yeah. You pop this in the top of the aerator. This isn't a decanter, it's an aerator. And you take your bottle of wine,
Yeah.
you attach it, and what it does is it filters quite slowly the wine down the inside of the carafe, all the way down. And at the end of it, you've initially aerated your wine. Yeah. And then
work
you
with
can
a half bottle for demonstration purposes.
No, it would work with a half
Do
bottle.
you want me to go and get that one?
Can do.
Yep.
Okay.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Because a lot of wine, it's amazing. Sometimes you go into a restaurant and you drink a wine, and it's lovely, but you think to yourself, well, it's just a house wine. Why can it be so nice? It's like anything. It's like if you cook food, if you cook it badly, it'll taste badly. If you take the time to prepare your wine, it will taste beautiful. Yeah. And that's really what you're looking to do with wine like this. So if we, for example, take this bottle, I will.
Fraction.
That's right. I'm just going to.
But you can't ruin it by doing that to it, putting it in there.
No,
You're making it
So can you
better.
see that how that's going down?
Yeah.
And that will kind of take its time to decant through, and it's aerating, and then ideally it will be at the right temperature. That's something that in good restaurants they're very good at doing. And what you're doing is you're helping the wine to express itself. So if you have a really cold red wine, it's going to taste awful unless it's very, very light. But if it's a good one with some body, we've done that. If it's a good one with some body, then you will start to release the aromas of the wine. And that's what you're doing here by aerating. You're starting the process. This has been in a bottle for 2 years. If you were in a bottle for 2 years, you might come out feeling a little bit, oh my good God, I'm a bit achy or a bit closed up. This is just waking you up. It's helping you to get some air into the system, and it's now starting to develop that wine so that the end product that you drink is as the winemaker wanted you to, rather than as a lot of wine is drunk straight from the bottle, straight from the fridge or whatever, too cold, too hot. Yeah.
Would you do that with all of your red wine, Robin?
I do actually. Yeah, I do. I really use this a lot. So yeah. The only thing with an expensive one is if it's old and it's carrying a sediment, I wouldn't necessarily want to do it then. I'd go to a conventional decanter, and I do it by hand. But you can literally just do it like this and take it out, and you'll see the sediment coming through the bottle to the neck of the bottle, and that's when you stop decanting. You can put muslin over there just to catch the deposit. You can put a candle or a light underneath, and that will highlight it and just show you when the sediment's got to that point where if you stop, it won't go into the decanter.
I have the cheaper version of the aerator, the little fist-sized one that goes over the top. Yeah, and you just pour it.
They're great, and then you take this the top off.
Yes.
Whoopsie daisy, and then you've just got your lid, and then if you don't finish it all, it's all sealed and all the rest of it for a future occasion, and you're not doing it any harm. I mean, I used to be sometimes I used to decant all my cheaper wines, everyday drinking wines. I used to decant them a day in advance, and they do taste so much better.
Presumably, as it's doing it, there's some vaporization going on, so it's letting the flavors out.
Yeah, it is, and it's allowing the air to do its stuff. It's allowing the temperature. It's allowing everything to just work its way through. But if it's an older wine, you don't necessarily want to give it too long in a decanter or in this kind of thing, because the older wines, I mean, I'm talking kind of 25, 30 years or so, if you get a really special bottle out, they'll start to oxidize very quickly because they are, so they've got a very limited window. So if you are going to decant them, that's fine. Start the oxidization, but then drink it fairly quickly, maybe after half an hour or so. But most wines, they'll easily last a day, like that, and they'll improve.
Right.
So and then I just want to ask you something about champagne. My father collected wines and different champagnes and things. He gave my children, when they were born, for their 21st birthday, 2 bottles of Dom Perignon.
All right. Yep.
That was it was the 80s. It was in the 80s. And the kids have still got them. They didn't want to open them. They don't, I mean, they're very old. Well, I think they might be 19. I think they're older than the 80s. He gave them in the 80s when they were born. So he bought them at some sort of auction, I think. I think they're 60s or whatever they are. And the children don't want to open them because the fear is that it would taste horrible anyway. So what would you do? Just hold on to that forever because it's a gift, or will it just go completely off? Or how do you know? I mean, if you once you've opened it, it's gone, isn't it? So.
It is, but I did something very, very similar for my firstborn, and she still has it, a bottle of 1990 Dom Perignon and a bottle of 1989 Chateau Margaux. And I was up there not so long ago, and she showed me both bottles, and she just asked me exactly the same question. One, there's a very good market if the children wanted to sell those bottles, and let's say they were late 80s, early 90s, they'd probably be looking at somewhere between £300 and £500 a bottle in terms of value for the Dom Perignon. But 2, champagne takes on a whole new taste when it gets older. So all that will happen is, whereas the wine, if it were poured young, would be a fairly light colour, maybe a couple of shades off being a watery style of colour, it takes on a much more golden yellow colour. It loses an awful lot of the mousse, the fizz, and it takes on a really, really lovely kind of yeasty, bready taste. And it's the most gorgeous thing to drink. And it will be unlikely to be flat. It won't be as fizzy as they used to, but it will be an absolutely divine drink, as marked by the fact that people are now buying this, and there is an active market for older champagne like this, but only at the quality end. But it's also worthwhile, on the question of champagne, you sometimes get special offers from supermarkets, £10 bottles of champagne. Well, okay, it's never going to be the highest quality, but my little tip is that if you keep hold of that for 2 or 3 years and just store it in a box on its side, whatever, it can be, in fact, champagne can be stood up because the natural gas within it keeps the cork moist. Then that will take on a much nicer bready taste, and it will taste like wine of twice the price. So just sitting on it for a couple of years is definitely worth it. And I've done it many times. You top up on Aldi special or Morrison special when they do their £10. Just hold on to it. It's lovely. It really is. But it's cheap champagne, but it just takes on a little bit of extra character that you wouldn't have tasted before. So the Dom Perignon, I would say they can drink it, they can sit on it a bit longer. There's no great rush.
Storing it, because it's been all over the place. It's been in a cellar when I had a house that had a cellar. It's been, I think one time I even put it up in the loft and just put it.
Well, do you know? No, it's very tightly sealed. And you shouldn't really be fluctuating dramatically in the storage temperatures. So being in a roof is going to be hot, being in a cellar is going to be very cool. Let's just hope that the time spent in the cellar was longer than the time spent in the loft, and that there's been a bit of continuity. But hey, do you know what? It'll be the most wonderful thing to open it. And I guarantee you, how many children are we talking about? 2?
Twins, yeah.
I guarantee that both bottles will taste completely differently.
Really? Oh, that's
God, yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but they'll be lovely. Just tell them to invite me. Tell George to invite me. Okay, when he's opening his.
I will, but I'll find out exactly how old they are. So moving on to what Bob's bought.
Well, it was a gift.
It was a gift. He doesn't know what it is.
It's
right, yeah.
Primitivo di Manduria, so Italian wine.
Yep.
Well, everything on the back label is in Italian. So So I don't
It's
know
got
anything about it.
14.5, Bob. Somebody told us that the higher the thing on the back, the better the quality of wine, because it's the
The
alcohol.
stronger,
Is that
the more powerful
true?
it is.
No, it's not true at all. No, but I used to have a customer that would never buy a wine less than 12%. And that was just his rule. No, the alcohol content is indicative of how quickly you're going to get drunk. So, for example, if you're buying wines for a wedding, go for 12.5-ish, there or thereabouts, because there's a long old day ahead of everybody. If you start hitting them with 14.5, 15% from the moment they step into the reception, there's going to be fights. And it won't be pretty. So no, the alcoholic content generally is not an indication of quality, nor is the sort of the depth of the nodule in the bottom of the bottle, nor is the color of the label or anything of that nature.
I always thought that was just a way of them getting away with less wine.
Get your finger out.
No, they still have the same amount of wine.
What is that?
Different bottles, different areas have different shapes. So don't worry too much about.
Well,
I
noticed that.
assume the reason for the nodule is just you need to keep the bottle upright, because it's easy to have just an edge on the surface rather than try and make the bottom completely flat, because it's glass.
I thought it was to get away with less wine.
So it will stand up straight.
It's no indicator of anything. It's just the design of the bottle.
Yeah.
Really? And all bottles have got that. I never knew that, until
I'm pretty sure it's just.
Yeah.
Okay.
So dealing with your bottle there, the Primitivo. So that is Primitivo, which is a grape. Yeah. It's a very smoky, kind of earthy, very unctuous style of wine. And what it's saying is it comes from a specific area, Manduria, in Italy, down in the south. And it will be a beautiful, beautiful wine. Give it a little bit of time to breathe, it'll be even better. But it's a great style of wine, and in the last few years it's become very popular. So of course you'll see Primitivo in many places, not just Italy now. It's spreading, but it's primarily in Italy, and it follows on from the popularity of grapes like Amarone, Appassimento, that kind of thing. It's in that kind of style. So in the past, you'd have a bottle of Italian Merlot and it would be light and fruity, not much going on. Now the Italians have discovered these varieties, or some of them they've had for many, many years, but they give a real return, or as the Americans say, a bang for your buck, a real return in terms of taste. And they're wines that now will sit very comfortably with big foods, big meals. And that's one example. And it will be absolutely delicious.
What would you eat with that then? What would you have to eat with that?
Rule of thumb, go with food from the country of origin.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're making it in situ. And they're making it they're not making it to sell abroad. They never have done. Well, sorry, in the old days when they first started, they never used to. It was about drinking for their own market with the food that's being cooked there. So as a result, that wine will go very, very well with typical Italian foods. I mean, they normally say things like never have wine with tomato, because tomato is acidic and it will cut through and kill the taste of wine. With a Primitivo, it won't. No, it won't as much. The taste of the Primitivo will come through, but it will in the past have, say, killed Merlot and so forth. So you were just drinking the Merlot just to be sociable and have fun. And remember, that's what they do over in many parts of Europe. It's about having wine with food and socializing. And so that's what it used to be. This is a wine, in a sense, that's made there, but it can be drunk anywhere in the world with any food. But I would say, rule of thumb, go with the food that they would produce in the country of origin.
Yes.
Is this a good bottle then?
This is a 2017.
Yep. Nothing wrong with a bit of bottle age. People get frightened away by the fact, oh my Lord, it's 5 years old. Do you know what? That will probably last for many years.
Well, I know that various years can be a lot better than others, depending on the weather.
What years? How do you know what years, Bob? You don't know what years.
You have to do a bit of studying.
It depends. It depends which country. So if you were talking about France in 2017, not a brilliant year. But then in Italy, because you're not far from France, but you come into Italy and you go to different areas within Italy. then Barolo will be different to the south of Italy, where they've got much more sunshine. So it's very much down to the specific areas these days as to and the grapes. Because, for example, Sauvignon and Chardonnay. Chardonnay is a thick skin, grows very, very well in hot countries. Sauvignon's a very thin skin on the grape, and it gets burnt very easily in very hot countries. So as a result, one of the wines I know you're going to mention is Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. And of course, it's a nice even climate down in Blenheim.
Screw top.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hold on. We've got one here. There we go. Screw top.
I don't think Bob will want to listen to that, will you?
I don't know. I might save it for a bit.
Well, why don't you save it till they come down, and then we can cook some Italian food and you can try it.
Is there
brilliant.
Perfect.
Is there any truth to I heard this rumour a while back. Is there any truth to the rumour that, as a rough rule of thumb, odd number years are better with a red wine than even number?
I don't know. Let's think about it. Odd numbers are better than even. No, because if I think France at the moment, and let's say we come from 2010. 2010 was great. 11 was quite poor in Bordeaux, for example. 12 was poor. 13 was poor. 14 wasn't that good. 15, brilliant. 16, very good. So no, there isn't.
Brilliant.
But okay. I do have one thing that I'm pretty certain that in Bordeaux, if the vintage ends with a 7, don't drink it, because it will definitely. It always seems to be the case. 97, 2007, 2017. You just go back in history, and anything with a 7, awful.
Wow.
From Bordeaux.
Just from Bordeaux, yeah. 67, awful. 77, awful. 87, awful. 97, all the way through.
Right.
Right. So, which one of these shall we open then? Which one should we open? We've got the Macon Village or that one, the Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay. Which one do you want to drink? Chardonnay or Sauvignon?
What do you want? Are they different? Really, that different? Are they?
Yep. So the Sauvignon will be very gooseberry taste, very fresh, very zingy. The Chardonnay will be quite sort of plump. It'll be very fruity with a hint of sweetness from the Chardonnay. And so it's two very, very different wines.
Have you got this one there? Did you hold it up?
No, we got the Oyster Bay
It's
from
an Oyster
Marlborough.
Bay, which is also a Sauv Blanc.
Right. So were you going to open yours then? So we opened ours, or will you just wait for us to open ours?
No, we opened the red.
We've got red.
Okay.
We've got
So
red.
you want to save that one, don't you? So you open that. So we're going to start from this. So really, Bob's going to open that. Now, how do you pour it?
How do you pour it?
No,
I'll tell you the best way to pour. Could you give me?
Is that the right glass? Because I'm not a person of lots of glasses like you guys. So
Okay, so
a smaller version of that.
there you go, red and white. So generally speaking, the red would be slightly larger, have a wider kind of bucket,
Like
if you like.
So that would be my red, and that's my white.
Yeah, and the pouring.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah.
It's a little silver
Flexi disc.
Yes.
Yeah.
disc.
It's like a thick
You
foil.
roll it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You stick it in the top of your bottle.
I'm trying to look over the edge.
Yeah.
Like that. You will never drip anything.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good idea.
So dinner parties, when you're leaning over people and so forth, and ladies have they've all decided to wear light colours, and you're thinking, Christ, how do I pour the red wine without dropping it on them? Yeah, a simple little thing like that, and it just stops any drips. Perfect.
Have you got one of those?
No, I always do the roll of the hand at the end.
You do, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that just to flick it onto the next lady before you?
No, it's just
Go on,
catch
so
the drip.
pour that.
Slowly drag the drip back into the neck, I think.
Do you tilt your glass when you
So
when
my
you're
understanding
pouring
is the reason for the stem on the white wine glass is so you don't hold the glass and warm the wine up. Yeah.
It is, and if you're pouring, and I was being pedantic, what I would do is I'd pour from a height,
Okay, get the oxygen in.
get the oxygen in, and get the sulfur out, because that bottle will have it when it was bottled. It had an injection of sulfur, and it also has natural sulfites within it. So just by aerating, you also get rid of the sulfur. So any potential for any anomalies in taste.
And next question is, how much do we put in?
All of it.
As much as you want to drink.
No. Be polite. What would we? Because I'm trying to.
I would go to 1/3 on a red.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe about half on a white.
Half on a white. Right,
Yeah.
go on.
We've got,
You're going to pour it up high. You've got to pour it from up high.
I'm
No. Try it. Go on. Go on.
miss.
Try it.
I'll
Try
miss.
it. You won't miss. Lift it up high. Go on.
No, I'm not going to.
That's it. That's your half. I will try to go up high. Oh.
There she
Oh.
goes. What that
And
job.
we're off. Where's the cloth?
Yes, well, how do you do? You
That's
can't-
it. That's it. Nice and slowly.
No, we need
Okay.
some. But yeah, he's just going to get some. Honestly, you'd think we've been practicing this. We haven't. Neither of us have had a drink. And then you tell us how to drink it, aren't you? Like what we do, and we know
Yeah,
it's
I'm gonna tell you how to taste it.
out.
Yeah.
But we're going to be spitting it out.
No,
Oh,
don't worry.
I'll go and get some bowls.
Which one?
No, we don't want to do anything silly like that.
You'll get drunk.
We
That's why
haven't
you
got any
spit it out.
crisps. I didn't get crisps because I knew I'd be munching them, and then I would forget.
The best thing to nibble on at a wine tasting: dry crackers. Just
Dry-
break them up little bits, and it just dries and cleanses or just dries out the palate. So you've got your wine in your glass. Give it a swirl
Well, even with white.
Yes.
with white. Yeah. So give it a swirl, and stick your nose in. And what do you smell?
Nothing much with that one. What do you smell?
I can tell it's a stronger flavour than I would expect with something like that.
How can
Yep.
you tell that?
Can't you smell it? You can smell it.
I definitely haven't got COVID or anything because I've had it. No, it just smells. It just smells. It's faint. Does that mean it's not good?
No, not at all. No, it just means that you're not picking it up. Now, it could be that it's too cold.
No, it's
Yeah,
not
because-
cold. I took it out of the
Mm,
fridge
that's
ages ago.
Okay, fine. So it's that thing about it's just been opened. I don't know what vintage it is, but it's opening up.
I don't think it's vintage.
Of course, it's vintage.
Don't see it.
Is it on the back?
That's on the top. 2020.
Right. Okay. So that wine has been in bottle for at least a year, just over a year or so. Yeah.
We're in 2022 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But it was made. The fruit would have been picked September, October, 2020.
Right.
It's
Oh,
then been processed.
Right, I can smell it a bit more now.
Yeah. It will open up the longer it's in the glass, and the more you shake it and give it the chance just to wake up.
Wake it
You
up.
got to remember that with wine, it's traumatized. That fruit, as soon as it was picked, it's macerated, it's mashed up, it's separated from all its brothers and sisters, it's bashed down, and it's the whole process starts. Yeah, so you can't blame it for just being a bit close or initially.
And when you're shaking it round like that,
Yeah,
you do it by the stem.
do it by the stem, and you can get a greater.
Increasing the surface area.
That's it.
Oh, now I can smell it. You're right.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
like burning it, hasn't it? You can, yeah, that's really good. So when I go to a restaurant network, no matter what I'm drinking, I'm going to be doing this. Looking round.
So here's the interesting bit. Now don't try and talk when you do this. Yeah. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a decent glug of liquid in the mouth. Yeah.
Right.
And as you do it, and suck the air so that the air goes through the liquid,
Okay,
and that will extract all the taste of the wine, and it will go up here.
Yeah.
I promise you, it'll go up here, and your brain will remember it. It logs it away in a library. Think of it that way. And the next time you taste that wine, you'll go, I've had that before. Because your brain will remember it. Yeah. Now, most people will just drink it. And of course, it's not being collated. It's not being put up in the library. But by actually just taking the air through, really tasting the wine, it goes up there and you'll get the full impact of the wine. And you'll be blown away by that, because that's going to be quite a creamy, buttery Chardonnay. No, maybe not buttery, but creamy style of Chardonnay. And it's really, really, it should be quite a zingy wine. So give that a go. Just don't try and talk, because your computer will get soaked.
It already is.
I don't know why you're laughing.
No,
You've got
I
to do it
know.
as well.
I've got to do it too.
And swirl it in your mouth, like mouthwash. And suck the air through, and you'll get the full effect.
Yeah, it goes straight up there. Yeah. Wow. Ooh. Yes, you can definitely taste it.
How's that, Alex? You're looking.
Did you try?
Well, you wouldn't burn on it, would
Breathe
you?
through it.
I did do
Oh, you
it.
did? Okay.
I did it while you were doing it. I didn't look at you. I'll do it again. I mean, would you do that on each mouthful that you have?
No, because normally you'd only do this if you were tasting wine. Yeah. So if you were doing like 6, 7, 8 different wines, that's when you start to spit it out. You do this, you get all the taste from the wine, you spit it out, and then you can do 6 to 8 wines in one sitting.
But that doesn't taste like it normally tastes to me.
No, that's because now you're getting the full taste of the wine. So do it again. You didn't brush your teeth before you came on board, did you?
No, but that tastes quite strong now.
Yeah.
Strong.
Yeah, that's because you're getting the full impact of all the alcohol, all the fruit, everything from that liquid is going into your senses. Yeah, all your senses are waking up to that wine. You're getting a big hit.
Yeah.
Whereas normally you just drink it and it goes over the tongue and it goes down the throat. That's it.
Yeah.
So we put it in our mouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Suck the air through it.
It's like decanting it.
Yeah.
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 And then it burns you.
Yeah.
You get the full flavour of it.
Yeah.
I can feel
Almost got a burn
like on the insides of my cheeks.
It's the same thing. It's olfactory. Because you're breathing over it, it goes straight into the brain.
I never knew that. That's just like it's got the same burn effect as whiskey.
Yeah. Well, that's why when you taste whiskey,
Blow your head off.
you don't taste it. You nose it. Yeah. So you're just going with the aroma, because if you did that with whiskey, it would take your head off.
So we decant with red, not decant. We glug with
Glug,
red and white.
Is it called
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to get the full taste of the wine.
You wouldn't do that with champagne, would you?
No. Champagne. I mean, typically you're drinking champagne from a glass like this. So if you do want to do anything with it, you'll get the aromas, the fruit aromas. But most people, they'll just drink it straight down. That's not ideal for drinking. For tasting champagne, because you're not really allowing it in something like this. There's quite a decent space at the top, so it's kind of able to express itself with the vapors, the aromas coming up. There's not very much there. Difficult to get your nose in as well. So, but that's ideal for drinking champagne. And I think, champagne, just enjoy it.
So are you saying it would be better to have your champagne in a glass like that if you really want?
No, not at all. Otherwise, you go back to the old baby sham kind of things, don't you? The thing.
Sauces.
Yeah, sauces. Yeah. The thing is with tasting, I love the simplicity of something like this. I know back in the day we used to use these.
Yeah.
And they're lovely, but do you know when you're appreciating the wine, you want to see the color, you want to see what it looks like. You want to see what the legs are like on the side of the glass, and it's very difficult with something like that. So I love the simplicity of this, and it's almost a tulip shape. So you're allowing the wine to kind of express itself. There's plenty of room to move the wine around in. Difficult with some other options.
So, Robin, when you talk about legs, does white wine have legs, or is it just red wine?
No. Yeah.
So this one hasn't really got any legs.
I don't know. It probably does. If you give it a good shake and have a look at what's falling down the inside of the glass, it will have some legs.
A little bit, yeah, but not. It's not.
Okay. So that's telling you that the wine shouldn't be too alcoholic. It's probably about 13% or so. Whereas if it was 14, 15, you would have very, very, I can still see them on this red.
13%.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Right. So, I can, on this one, I'm looking at it now and they're just kind of waking up. They're picking up speed a bit, but they're all there. And I don't know what this one is.
This is 14%.
14%. So you've got some leg shape. Yeah.
Is that you're drinking, both of you?
What are we drinking?
Yeah.
This is a Percheron, which is I'll let you pronounce that.
It's a South African wine.
Yes.
And it's Shiraz
Yes.
and Mourvèdre. So those are two classic French Rhone grape varieties that go really well together. So if you think things like Côte de Rhône, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, those are the grapes that will be in there. But that's a South African version of that style of wine.
How much was that bottle?
That would be about £6.57 a bottle.
It's got a nice label on. You see, that's the other thing I do. I tend to look
You
at
go
the
for labels.
labels.
Yeah, I do, Alex. I buy a pretty label.
Yeah.
But you're also buying it because that one, Christine buys them for her guests to drink. So of course, putting a marketing head on, you don't necessarily want to get the best quality ones. You actually want a label that's going to be attractive to the customer, so that the customer kind of looks at it and goes, "Oh, I like that." Because as soon as they say, "I like the label," their mind will tell them that they will like the wine.
Well, and actually, interestingly, of the group that have just arrived, of the wine rack that I've set up for them, that's the first bottle that they've pulled out. That's the one they chose. So yeah, that concurs with exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Branding, isn't it? That's people like the label.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like with this Prosecco. I mean, this is quite common. You'll find this in many places. The I Love brand. I think it's Asda, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, I think it came from Asda. But it's, what does it say? I love Prosecco. Yeah, but it's simple, but it's effective. You'll remember that. So any supermarket you go into, or anytime you go into wherever that's sold, you'll go, oh, I like that. And it's easy to remember. A lot of the French labels, for example, aren't like that. They'll just have a chateau name on. You go, oh God, what was that stuff called that I enjoyed that time? You don't stand a cat and hell's chance of remembering. But with a label like that, you will remember it.
Yeah.
So, and that then, talking about Prosecco, that brings me on to my other question. I mean, I years ago I don't think we had Prosecco. You mentioned Baby Sham. I remember that from when I was a kid. But Prosecco kind of came in and took over. And you even hear people at weddings saying, would you like champagne? And I think they use Prosecco, don't they, with Bucks Fizz or Mimosa rather than using champagne. I have to say, I think I probably would notice the difference between champagne and Prosecco, because when I've had champagne, it seems a lot drier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas Prosecco is a bit watery.
Yeah.
What I don't know the difference of is, what is that I've bought, that Cuvée Royale? What does that? I can't turn that to me.
So Cuvée Royale in France would generally be a fizzy wine with a Kia in it. So like a grenadine or something like that. That looks as though it's clear. So I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks, what country does it come from?
It's French.
It's French. Okay. So typically then
it was reduced. That's why I bought it.
Right. Okay. It's probably going to be a a very easy drinking fizz that you might want to add something to make it a bit more interesting, like if you've got any cassis or something like that, or you want to use it to make a box fizz, or you want to put some cognac in to give it a bit of punch with some sugar, make a cocktail. Be great for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It says
I would
it's
imagine.
rich dry wine with a biscuity taste. First time I've
There you
seen
go.
biscuit wine.
Is that nicer than prosecco though? Is that a nicer thing to have than prosecco?
I don't know. I don't know the wine, but you see, prosecco has caught the imagination. I think because, like you say, champagne tends to be quite dry. It's kind of ultra brut, whereas prosecco is more brut.
It's very
and people, it's so easy drinking. Tends to be a bit lower in the alcohol stakes. So I don't know what that is, but say typically about 11.5%, whereas champagne's at 11. So champagne typically would be say 12.5-ish, there or thereabouts. So it's lighter, it's easier to drink, you can drink more, and you can be social, have fun. And it seems to have become, without stereotyping it, very much the kind of the girls' night out kind of drink, doesn't it? But anybody can enjoy it. I enjoy it. We had a dinner party here the other night, didn't we? And we were drinking some of this, and it's lovely, and it's a good alternative to champagne. It's a kind of a price conscious thing because it's a lot cheaper than champagne, but actually it tastes just as good. It's got it's a completely different taste, but you can enjoy it just as much.
But you've got lots of different prices in prosecco. You can buy it £5 a bottle up to like £12 a bottle. What's the difference? What are you paying for? Is it the alcohol content? Is it a better?
No, I think you'd like to think that if you pay more for something, it's going to be a higher quality. But you mentioned Aldi earlier, and you go to Aldi, and I think you can pick up an organic prosecco in there for about £7.99. And I have drunk that before, and it's lovely. It really is a very nice fizz. So I would say to you, you don't necessarily have to pay more to get quality or to get something that's going to taste good. Just experiment, really. I think prosecco, it's like champagne. You can say, well, you can buy champagne from £10 up to a couple of £100 a bottle. But would you and I and Christine and Bob, would we appreciate the £190 difference between a slightly aged bottle of £10 champagne and £120 for Dom Perignon?
No, I think you would. Probably we would.
No, I don't necessarily. I don't agree with that, because some of them at the lower end, they make such an effort that they can be really, really nice. You might notice it, say, with the mousse, because the fizz, the line of bubbles would be very, very small compared to a cheaper champagne. Put that to one side. The taste, I'm not sure that many people, probably 95% of people probably wouldn't even know. If you gave it to them in a social situation, and you're expecting them to say, "Oh my Lord, that's gorgeous," they'll just carry on chatting to their friend as they drink it, and they won't even notice. That's a bit dispiriting if you spent £130 on a bottle.
Absolutely, yeah.
Give them Prosecco. Give them organic Prosecco from Aldi.
Or I'd keep that for special friends and give everybody else. But that was the other thing I wanted to ask you, because Bob's got a list of wine that he wanted to ask you about. But I just wanted to ask you the other question. So a few months ago, I'm in one of the well-known supermarkets, and they've got a really good reduction on this red wine. I didn't know what the hell it was, but I think there was something like, it was a reduced to clear. I've got a feeling it might have been M&S actually. It was reduced to clear red wine, and it was £6 off a bottle. And this guy was trying to get it all into his trolley. And because he was doing that, I started grabbing a couple of bottles. And then he was saying, "No, please don't. I need 12 bottles." And then the woman said, "There is a bit more." So I ended up with 6 bottles of this. Didn't know what I bought, and it was really nice. I liked it, but it was gone. is that something that you should do without, you don't know what you're buying, but because there's a good reduction, or is the reduction usually because it's not very good, or do they just have ends of lines and they're good to buy up if you see them?
Yeah, definitely. They do, because they've got new vintages coming in. They've got new lines in supermarkets. The supermarkets are changing their wines all the time. They want to clear out an older vintage because they've got the new stuff coming through in the warehouse. So they're told just to clear current stock or whatever. It can be anything. It almost certainly won't be that the wine is of a poor quality, because if it was a poor quality, they wouldn't sell it in the first place. And if they'd had a load of feedback that it was bad, they would just take it back. That's seemingly how supermarkets operate these days. So if they're giving you £6 off an average sort of price bottle of wine, then yeah, it probably is going to be a good deal. Can you remember what it was?
No, not at all. I still look for that kind of bargain. That much off, I just buy a bottle. Or I follow people, I stalk them. If they look like they know what they're doing, I might even say to them, what are you actually having to eat this evening with that? And then they say, well, I'm going to have this. I think that sounds really nice. I'll get some of that then. And I have this wine, and they're like, yeah. But that's what I do. I follow people about if they look like they know what they're doing. But sometimes they look like they know what they're doing and they don't know any more than I do. So.
No. Do you know the amount of people when I used to do wine tastings go, well, of course, I don't drink Chardonnay. What whites do you like? Well, I love a Chablis. So it's people that which is a Chardonnay. So people quite often give the image or the impression that they know what they're talking about. Probably they don't.
They don't. So really, what's the rule then? Just buy something that you like. Yeah. If you like it, that's the pleasure in it.
Yeah, that's the pleasure. The pleasure is the experience of the taste, the experience of the situation, the company that you have, the food that you're drinking it with. Wine, in this country, I know that we do drink a lot of wine standalone without food, but the experience, try to be more European, I guess, and enjoy the whole thing. The family, the friends, the food, the wine, the ambience, the outdoor temperature, whatever it is, the sun, the rain, just enjoy it. If you're drinking a red by the fireside, choose the right red, something with a bit of body, something you can sit back and enjoy and have a laugh with the people that you're with.
But the whites then, the whites that you have, you can do you only have those with fish and with desserts then? Can you drink white with steak?
You can drink whatever the old rules, the old kind of stuffy rules about wine have all gone by the wayside.
Have they? So you don't have to have red wine because you're eating red meat, or white wine because you're having fish. You can have what you like with what you like.
Absolutely. I mean, they even make red wine now with a hint of white wine in it to give it fragrance. So quite typically you'll see red wines, Syrah or Shiraz, and they're topped up with Viognier. And there'll be 2-3% Viognier on top of the Shiraz or the Syrah. And that's to give it a fragrance that the red wine wouldn't have on its own. And that's a beautiful taste. And that doesn't matter. I mean, I bought some of that from Waitrose. It was on special offer. I think it was about £5.50 a bottle. It was gorgeous. It was reduced from about £8, but you can pay an awful lot more for that style of wine, but you don't have to.
Sure.
Right. So on your list, what I saw you were writing your list.
I was just so I didn't forget anything. The generally red wines. If I want something light, I would go for very light. I go for a Shiraz. I like Pinot Noir and Valpolicella. Those would be the lighter ones.
Yep.
Otherwise, for Merlot or Malbec.
When you say lighter, what do you mean? Lighter in taste?
Well, more easily drinkable, sort of just a very relaxed wine. The bolder wines would be like the Merlot or the Malbec. And
You like Barolo, don't you?
Barolo is the top one that I would go for.
Yeah.
Got at least one bottle of Barolo in there.
Yeah.
Those would be my choices in the red. And the white, I'd go for, again, very drinkable, Pinot Grigio as a white.
I like that.
Slightly bolder would be Vouvray or a Soave.
Vouvray is quite sweet, isn't it?
I really like the Vouvray.
Yeah,
think
I
it's
like
a
that
really,
too.
It's a really nice flavour.
I like it more than I like this now.
Yeah.
Well, if you like Vouvray, it doesn't have to be sweet. You can have the dry version. So you got the two versions: the demi sec and the sec. So the dry and the kind of medium, if you like. Or as an alternative, try Chenin Blanc from South Africa, made from the same grape, and very, very nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I want to know is, why is it Pinot Noir and Pinot Grigio? Pinot, what
It's
does
Pinot
that mean?
grape, isn't it?
Oh, is
Yeah.
it the Pinot
Yeah,
grape?
they're using the Pinot grape.
Yeah, one's red, one's white. Different grapes.
Right.
It's like Pinot in South Africa, Pinotage.
Okay, Pinotage. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
see,
And that's a nice wine. You get a really good one, you can smell banana in that, and it's really weird smelling banana in your wine. But yeah, you get a really good one. They're lovely.
Yeah.
that's the thing I'd like. You know, when there used to be that, wasn't there that program on telly where they used to taste the wine? And I remember this lady. She said, "I got a taste of gooseberry and."
Oh, Gilly
Sometimes-
Gordon.
I've never
Yeah,
tasted
that's right,
any
yeah.
of those things.
No, I think she had many sexual fantasies. That lady. Yeah, I'm
Very
getting,
exciting, didn't
I'm
she?
getting leather. I'm getting.
Yeah. It was a program, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There were a lot of them. You had you had Jancis Robinson, you had Gilly Goulden, Oz Clarke. There's been quite a few programs with along those lines. I like Oz Clarke because he says it as it is. You don't get any pretension.
Yeah.
You know, he'll tell you what it tastes like, and that's great. And I used to like his program. Some of the others were a little bit flowery, because most of us maybe would struggle to smell tobacco or leather or whatever. We would smell them, but we wouldn't necessarily describe them as tobacco and leather or oaky or whatever. You know, we'd smell maybe vanilla in place of oak, for example. But yeah, sometimes they're a bit flowery. Yeah, but that's the old guard. It's the old style of the wine trade. The new one is, you say it as it is. You buy what you like. You taste what you like. You drink it with whatever food you like. The rules have all changed, and that's the beauty of wine now. It doesn't have to be stuffy. You shouldn't go into an independent wine merchant anymore and get approached by a man, in a three-piece suit made of tweed and all the looking over his glasses at you, going, "Yes, how can I help you?" Now, you're more than likely going to go into a Majestic. You'll get approached by a young, funky person, and they will know so much about wine and taste, and they'll ask you a few questions, and they'll say, "You need to try this." And I would say take their advice.
Can you actually try wine in Majestic then?
Yeah, they stopped because of COVID for a while. I don't know if they've started again, but I think they have, because on LinkedIn on LinkedIn, I think they said that they have started again. But it's worth asking. But yeah, they used to have 4 or 5 different wines you could just go in and taste. But you can rely on their experience as well, their taste, because they will have tasted a lot of them. They attend an awful lot of tasting.
Right.
So all the stuffiness is gone. There's no more dessert wines. You can get one if you want, but you don't have to have it.
No, you don't have to have it. No, you go with what you want at the end of the meal.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's fantastic. So a closing line from you, Robin?
Would be, wine is about enjoyment, and it's a personal taste thing. Drink what you like, experiment, try a few different wines, but don't be frightened to go back to something that you have tried many, many times and you like and enjoy.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you. And thank you so
Cheers,
much,
Robin.
guys, for joining us this evening. And
Oh, yeah.
See you very soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lovely working.
Stay
Take
there.
care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.